She had 48 hours to find someone willing to pretend to love her for 6 weeks. The brand deal required couple content, authentic, intimate, engagement driving. Every friend she'd called had laughed. Every ex had hung up, which left one name in her contacts: the person she'd stopped speaking to 3 years ago. She opened the message thread. His last text was still there from 2022. Guess we're better as memories. Her finger hovered over the keyboard. The contract was worth $75,000. 6 weeks, 3 countries: Santorini, Bali, Iceland. All she needed was someone who could fake it convincingly enough that 200,000 followers would believe it. Someone who knew her well enough to make it look real. Someone who wouldn't ask questions about why she'd gone silent 3 years ago. Her finger moved. She typed, "I have a proposition." The message showed as read immediately. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. The call came at 3 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. Lila watched the screen light up with the Travelux logo. She let it ring twice before answering. Professional, not desperate. "Lila, hi." The voice belonged to Marcus, the brand manager she'd been courting for 8 months. "I'm calling about the campaign." She straightened in her chair. The cafe around her blurred into background noise. "We love your aesthetic. Your engagement rates are solid, but we're pivoting the concept." He paused, the kind of pause that preceded bad news. "We're looking for couple content now, romantic travel. The metrics show it performs 40% better." Her coffee had gone cold in her hand. "I can adapt. I've done collaborative content before." "We need authentic couple content, a relationship. We're talking 6 weeks, 3 destinations, full immersion. If you have a partner who's willing to be on camera—" "I don't." The words came out too fast. "Then I'm sorry. We'll have to go with someone else. I can give you 48 hours if you want to explore options. After that, we're moving forward with our backup." The call ended. Lila set the phone down. The screen went dark. Her reflection stared back from the black glass. 8 months of pitching, of perfecting her portfolio, of proving her work was legitimate. 48 hours. Outside, the afternoon light turned everything amber. She remembered the airport. Connor had been 23 then, standing at the gate with a backpack that was too big and a grin that was too wide. They'd been accepted to the same study abroad program in Prague. 6 months of freedom before real life started. He'd said, "We're going to come back different people." She'd laughed. "Is that a promise or a threat?" "Both." The flight had been delayed 3 hours. They'd sat on the terminal floor, sharing headphones, making lists of everything they wanted to see. Charles Bridge at sunrise, the astronomical clock at midnight, every bookstore in the city. She'd fallen asleep on his shoulder somewhere over the Atlantic. When she woke, he was sketching in a notebook. The page was covered in quick pencil lines, the curve of wings, the angle of clouds, her face in profile. "You draw?" she'd asked. He'd closed the notebook. "Not really." But she'd seen it, the careful attention, the way he'd captured something true. That had been 7 years ago, before everything got complicated. Lila scrolled through her contacts. The first call went to voicemail. The second ended with laughter and, "Are you serious?" The third person listened for 30 seconds before saying, "I have a boyfriend, Lila. This is weird." She tried her ex. He hung up after 10 words. She tried a college friend who'd always joked about being in her videos. He said, "My wife would literally kill me." The list got shorter. The light through her window shifted from gold to gray. Her thumb hovered over the name she'd been avoiding. Connor Hayes. The last time they'd spoken, it had been an argument. Something about priorities, about what mattered. She couldn't remember the specifics anymore, just the feeling, like standing on opposite sides of a widening gap. He'd sent one text after, "Guess we're better as memories." She'd never replied. 3 years of silence could mean he'd forgotten, or it could mean he'd remember exactly why they'd stopped talking. Her phone buzzed. A reminder from Travelux. 47 hours remaining. She opened the message thread. Her finger hit send before she could think too hard about it. He replied in 20 minutes. What kind of proposition? She suggested a cafe, neutral ground, public, easy to leave if it went badly. Connor arrived first. She saw him through the window before she reached the door. He looked older, not in a bad way, just in the way that 3 years would change someone. His hair was shorter. He wore a jacket she didn't recognize. He looked up when the door chimed. For a second, neither of them moved. Then she crossed the room and pulled out the chair across from him. Hey! Hey! The silence stretched. She focused on the scratch marks on the table. You look good, he said. Thanks, you too. Another pause. He sipped his coffee. She watched the steam rise from her untouched cup. So, a proposition. His voice was careful, no judgment, just curiosity. She told him, 6 weeks, 3 countries, $75,000 each. Couple content for a brand campaign. All they had to do was pretend to be in love convincingly enough that her followers believed it. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he leaned back. Why me? Because you know me. Because you're good on camera. Because no one else said yes? She didn't answer. That was answer enough. He looked out the window. A cyclist passed. A dog barked somewhere distant. 50-50 split, 75 each. Yes. And rules. We need rules. She nodded. He pulled a napkin from the dispenser, found a pen in his jacket, started writing. No real feelings, no telling families. Exit clause if things get uncomfortable. Equal say on content decisions. He slid the napkin across the table. If we do this, we do it right. Professional. She read it twice, then picked up the pen and signed her name at the bottom. He signed below hers. Outside, the light was fading into evening. The first photo shoot happened 3 days later in their city. They met at a park, golden hour. The light was perfect for announcing their relationship to their combined audience of 400,000 followers. Connor brought his camera. Lila brought props, a blanket, a picnic basket that was mostly empty, 2 wine glasses. Too staged? She asked. It's fine. People expect staged. They set up near a tree. He adjusted the tripod while she smoothed the blanket. Okay, so we just hold hands, look at each other, smile. It sounded simple. She sat, he sat beside her. Their knees almost touched. Ready? She nodded. He took her hand. His palm was warm. She'd forgotten that detail. The camera timer blinked red. Look at me, he said. She turned. He was already looking. Something in his expression made her forget the script. The shutter clicked. They took 40 more shots, different angles, different poses, his arm around her shoulders, her head on his chest, both of them laughing at something he said that wasn't actually funny but felt true anyway. When they checked the photos later, she realized they looked natural, too natural. He posted first. The caption was simple. Surprise. The comments came in waves. Finally, I knew it. You two have been perfect for each other since forever. She read them twice. People have been shipping us? Connor scrolled through his phone. Apparently for years. How did we not know? He shrugged. We were busy not talking. The number climbed. 500 comments. 1,000. Engagement rates spiking. She looked at him across the table. He was editing the next post. This is going to work. He nodded, but he didn't look up. Sophie met them at the airport. Lila's best friend and manager stood near the security checkpoint with coffee and a look that said she had opinions. So, this is happening. It's a business arrangement, Lila said. Uh-huh. Connor appeared with both their bags. He nodded at Sophie. Good to see you again. Is it? Sophie handed Lila the coffee. Can I talk to you for a second? They stepped aside. Connor stayed back, checking his phone. Li, are you sure about this? It's 6 weeks. It's professional. You two haven't spoken in 3 years. And now you're going to pretend to be in love across 3 continents. What could go wrong? Nothing. We have rules. Sophie looked at her for a long moment. Then she sighed. Just don't lose yourself in the performance, okay? I've seen you do that before. With your ex. With your family's expectations. You start playing a role and forget what's real. I won't. Promise me. I promise. Sophie pulled her into a hug. Call me if you need an exit strategy. When Lila turned back, Connor was watching. She couldn't read his expression. Ready? He asked. She nodded. They walked through security together. On the other side, the departure board listed their gate. Santorini. Boarding in 40 minutes. Connor made a joke about the honeymoon phase. Lila laughed too hard. Sophie's warning echoed in her head. The hotel had made a mistake. We booked a couple's suite, Lila said to the desk clerk. That should be 2 beds. The clerk checked the system. I show a king suite, 1 bed. That's what was reserved. Connor leaned against the counter. It's fine, I can take the floor. You're not sleeping on the floor for 6 weeks. Then what do you suggest? The clerk offered an apologetic smile. We're fully booked for the season. I can bring extra pillows? They took the key. The room was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the caldera. White walls and blue accents. A terrace with 2 chairs and a small table. And 1 very large bed in the center. Lila set her suitcase down. Connor went straight to the terrace. Good light out here, he called. We can shoot the morning content from this angle. Always thinking about content. She unpacked in silence. When she came out to the terrace, he was leaning on the railing, looking at the sunset. It's beautiful, she said. Yeah. They stood there. The wind carried the scent of salt and distant cooking. Voices drifted up from the street below. We should set boundaries, she said, for the bed situation. Agreed. Stay on our own sides. No crossing the middle. What if someone rolls over in their sleep? Then we deal with it like adults. Okay. The sun dropped lower. The sky turned from gold to pink to deep purple. That night, they both lay on opposite edges of the bed. The space between them felt like a canyon. Lila stared at the ceiling. Connor's breathing was steady, but not the rhythm of sleep. You awake? She whispered. Yeah. This is weird. Very weird. A pause. But we can do this. Yeah. Another pause. Good night, Connor. Good night, Lila. The moonlight came through the window. Outside, the caldera was dark and still. Neither of them slept for a long time. Morning came too early. Lila woke to find herself closer to the middle than she'd started. Connor was still on his side, facing away, one arm hanging off the edge. She moved back quickly. He stirred, rolled over. Their eyes met. Morning. Morning. Neither mentioned the distance that had closed during the night. They dressed in separate corners. Connor made coffee from the machine. Lila set up the tripod on the terrace. Breakfast content? He asked. Breakfast content. They arranged fruit and pastries on the table. He poured coffee into 2 cups. She adjusted the camera angle. They sat. The morning light was perfect, soft and golden. Okay, we just eat and talk and look like we're in love. She picked up a strawberry. He reached across the table. Their hands met halfway. For the shot? She asked. For the shot. He took the strawberry from her fingers, held it out to her lips. She bit. Sweetness flooded her mouth. The camera kept recording. His thumb brushed her lower lip, wiping away juice. She forgot they were performing. He pulled back first, cleared his throat. That should work. Yeah. They ate in silence after that. The coffee was good. The view was stunning. The strawberries still tasted too sweet. When they reviewed the footage later, Lila couldn't stop watching the moment his thumb touched her lip. We're good at this, Connor said. Maybe too good. He didn't answer. On the screen, they looked like two people falling in love. It was exactly what Travelux wanted, and that was the problem. The next morning began with logistics disguised as romance. They walked through Ia holding hands. The narrow streets were crowded with tourists. Every few minutes, Connor would stop to frame a shot. Lila against white walls, Lila with bougainvillea, Lila looking out at the sea. Tilt your head left. More. Perfect. She tilted. She smiled. She played the part. Between shots, they dropped hands. The distance returned. We need shots of you too, she said. I'm better behind the camera. Connor, it's couple content. You have to be in it. He handed her the camera, positioned himself against a blue door. Now what? Just stand there, look thoughtful. Thoughtful? Like you're thinking about, I don't know, the meaning of life, travel, me. He laughed. The camera caught it. When she checked the shot, his smile was real. Unguarded. She took 5 more without telling him. They stopped at a cafe for lunch, sat outside under an awning. Ordered food they barely touched because they were too busy setting up the next shot. Connor leaned across the table. Say something. What? Anything, just talk. We need to look like we're having a conversation. This is a conversation. This is us discussing camera angles. Say something real. She paused. I forgot how much you hate olives. He blinked. You remember that? You used to pick them out of everything. I still do. They looked at each other. The camera timer blinked red between them. A tourist walked by and said, You two are adorable. They smiled, waved. When the tourist left, Connor said quietly, This is surreal. Yeah, the shutter clicked. On the screen, they looked like two people who'd never stopped knowing each other. That night, Connor edited footage on his laptop. Lila sat on the terrace with her phone. Comments were still flooding in. People asking how long they'd been together. People saying they'd always known. One comment stood out. I was at uni with you both. You two were inseparable. Glad you found your way back. She didn't remember being inseparable, or maybe she did. And she'd just rewritten that part. Connor came out to the terrace, handed her his laptop. Check this before I post. She watched the reel. Their morning in Ia set to music. The clips flowed seamlessly, laughing, touching, looking at each other like the rest of the world had fallen away. It's good, she said. You hate it. I don't hate it, but... She handed the laptop back. It's just, I forgot you remember how I like to be filmed. What do you mean? The angles, the light. You're shooting the way I used to tell you I wanted to be seen. From slightly above, natural light, no harsh shadows. He looked at the screen, then at her. Habits are hard to break. Is that what it is? He didn't answer, just took the laptop inside. She stayed on the terrace. The night air was cool. The caldera stretched out dark and endless. Inside, she heard the click of keys, the soft sound of him working. When she finally came in, he was already in bed, eyes closed, breathing steady. She slipped under the covers on her side. The space between them felt smaller than before. Sophie called via video the next afternoon. Lila answered from the hotel room. Connor was in the shower. How's fake paradise? Sophie asked. Complicated. Define complicated. Everything looks real. The content is great. The engagement is insane. But it's starting to feel real? Lila didn't answer. Sophie leaned closer to the camera. Lee, be careful. I know you. You commit to things, even performances. It's professional. Your voice is different. It's not. It's softer. You're doing the thing where you start to believe the story you're telling. The shower turned off. I have to go. Call me if you need me. I mean it. The call ended. Connor emerged in a t-shirt and jeans, hair still damp. Everything okay? Yeah, Sophie, just checking in. He nodded, didn't push. They spent the rest of the afternoon shooting sunset content, standing close, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder. Every touch was choreographed. Every smile was timed. But when he whispered something about the light, his breath warm against her ear, she forgot they were performing. The camera captured that too. The flight to Bali was long. Lila dozed against the window. Connor worked on his laptop beside her. Somewhere over the Indian Ocean, turbulence hit. The plane dropped. Her stomach lurched. Her hands shot out. Found his. He held on. Didn't let go even when the shaking stopped. She realized a minute later, started to pull away. He released her fingers slowly. "Sorry," she said. "Don't be." They didn't talk about it, but when she checked her hand later, she could still feel the warmth of his palm. Bali was green and humid and alive. Their hotel was in Ubud, rice terraces, jungle sounds, a pool that seemed to drop off into nothing. The first shoot was a couple's massage. They lay on tables side by side, separated by 3 feet and a bamboo screen. The masseuse for Lila hummed softly while working. Connor's masseuse was silent. Halfway through, Connor's masseuse said, "You are very tense. You must relax." Lila heard him exhale. "Work stress," he said, "or love stress." The woman laughed. "Sometimes the same." Lila kept her eyes closed, tried not to think about his body 3 feet away, tried not to think about the fact that thinking about it meant something. After, they sat by the pool in matching robes. "That was weird," Connor said. "Very weird." She said, "We were tense. We are tense. Because we're faking a relationship." "Right, because we're faking it." He looked at her. She looked at the water. A bird called from somewhere in the trees. "We should get shots of the sunset," she said. "Yeah." They didn't move. The sun dropped lower. The sky turned orange, then pink, then purple. Finally, Connor stood, offered his hand. She took it. They walked to the edge of the property where the jungle met the sky. The camera sat forgotten by the pool. They found a rhythm over the next few days. Mornings, couple content. Breakfast shots, sunrise walks. Afternoons, solo work. She edited photos. He scripted voiceovers. Evenings, joint content again. Dinners, sunsets, whatever Travelux wanted. It was working. The numbers proved it. But the comments started to shift. "Something feels different. They seem more distant now. Is everything okay?" Lila read them in bed while Connor showered. She couldn't pinpoint what changed. They were following the plan, hitting every mark. But maybe that was the problem. They'd gotten too good at performing. The spontaneity was gone. Connor came out, saw her face. "What's wrong?" She showed him the phone. He read, frowned. "They're right." "What do you mean?" "We're playing it too safe, too choreographed. People can tell." "So what do we do?" He sat on the edge of the bed. "We improvise more. Be less careful." "Less careful how?" "I don't know. Touch without planning it. Talk without scripting it. Just be." "Be what?" He looked at her. Something shifted in his expression. "Be what we would be if this were real." The room suddenly felt smaller. "Okay," she said. "Okay." Neither of them moved. Outside, rain started to fall. Soft at first, then harder. The fight started over something small. Connor wanted to wake at 4 for sunrise. Lila wanted to sleep. "It's one morning," he said. "We've been going non-stop for 3 weeks. This is the job. The job isn't going to matter if we're too exhausted to do it well." His jaw tightened. "You always do this." "Do what?" "Choose comfort over opportunity." The words landed like a slap. "And you always choose content over people." Silence. They stared at each other across the hotel room. Then Lila said quietly, "We're not talking about sunrise, are we?" Connor turned away. "No. What are we talking about?" 3 years ago, when you stopped returning my calls. You stopped calling first. Because you made it clear you didn't have time. You were building your brand, your audience. And I was..." What? You were what? I was someone who wasn't helping you grow. She hadn't expected that. Connor, forget it, I'll go to sunrise alone. Wait. But he was already grabbing his camera. The door closed behind him. Lila sat on the bed. Rain hit the windows. She'd forgotten that fight, or she'd tried to. 3 years ago, she'd been obsessed with metrics, with proving herself. She'd canceled plans, ignored texts, chosen sponsored posts over coffee with friends, chosen her feed over Connor, and he'd let her go. Because that's what he did. He stepped back when things got hard, just like his parents. She grabbed her jacket and followed him into the rain. She found him at the rice terraces. It was barely dawn. The sky was gray-purple, rain still falling lightly. He stood at the edge with his camera, not taking photos, just standing. "You came," he said without turning. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For 3 years ago. You were right. I chose the wrong things." He lowered the camera, turned to face her. "I'm sorry too, for leaving instead of fighting." "You did fight. I didn't listen. I could have tried harder." They stood in the rain, neither moving closer. "Why did you say yes?" she asked. "To this, to fake dating me." "Honestly?" "Honestly. Because I wanted to see if we could still be us, even if it was pretend." Her heart did something complicated. And? "And I think we're better at pretending than we were at being real." He said it like a confession. She stepped closer. Rain dripped from her hair. "What if we tried again, being real?" "Lila, I know, the contract, the rules, but nothing. This is a job. We agreed. You don't feel anything?" He looked at her for a long moment. Rain fell between them. "What I feel doesn't matter. In 6 weeks, this ends. You go back to your life. I go back to mine. That was the deal." "The deal can change." "It can't, because I can't do this again." "Do what?" "Watch you choose everything else over me." The words sat between them, heavy and true. She wanted to argue, to promise she was different now, but 3 years of silence said otherwise. Connor picked up his camera. "We should get back, dry off, post something, do the job." He walked past her. She stood alone in the rain. The sunrise never came, just more gray. That evening, there was a beach party. Some brand event Travelux had arranged. Influencers and sponsors, music and fire dancers. The kind of thing designed for content. Lila wore a dress she didn't feel comfortable in. Connor wore a shirt with the sleeves rolled up. They arrived together, but orbited separately. A stranger approached Connor at the bar, asked about Lila. "How'd you two meet?" Connor launched into a story, half true, half invented. "College, study abroad. We were inseparable, then life got complicated, but we found our way back." Lila heard it from 10 feet away. The stranger asked, "What made you realize she was the one?" Connor paused, looked across the party to where Lila stood. "She laughs at the worst jokes. She remembers things I forget I told her. She sees the world in ways I'm still learning to notice." He said it to a stranger, but his eyes were on her. "And when she's passionate about something, she glows. You can't look away." The stranger smiled. "That's beautiful, man." Connor lifted his drink. "Yeah." Lila crossed the sand. Her heart was pounding. "Can we talk?" "Now?" "Now." They walked away from the party, down the beach where the music faded and the waves took over. "I heard what you said," Lila started. "Which part?" "All of it. About college. About me." "It's for the content, what they wanted to hear." "Was it?" He stopped walking, turned to face her. "I don't know anymore. I don't know what's real and what's performance. That story? Half of it is true. The rest is what I wished had happened." "What do you wish had happened?" "That I told you 3 years ago. That you were it for me. That I couldn't stop seeing you in every place I traveled. That every shot I took I thought, Lila would love this. Or, I wish Lila were here. Her breath caught. Connor, but I didn't say it because you were building something, and I didn't want to be a distraction. So I left. And I told myself it was the right thing. It wasn't. I know, but knowing doesn't change the past. She stepped closer. The waves crashed behind them. What about changing the future? We have 3 more weeks on contract. Then we go back to our separate lives. That's the plan. Plans can change. Not these ones. I can't. His voice cracked. I can't do temporary with you. Either this is real or it's nothing. And we agreed it was nothing. What if I want it to be real? He looked at her, pain and hope warring in his expression. You say that now, but in 3 weeks when the cameras stop, when it's just us without the content, without the validation from followers, will you still want it? Yes. You don't know that. I do. Lila, she kissed him. His phone buzzed in his pocket. The moment broke. He pulled back, checked the screen. Travel Lux, they want to call. Reality crashed back in. Now? 5 minutes. They walked back up the beach in silence. The party was still going. The fire dancers spun light against the dark. Connor took the call near the bar. Lila watched from a distance. When he came back, his face was unreadable. They want to extend the contract. 3 more months. Double the pay. What did you say? I said I'd think about it. Do you want to do it? He looked at her. Do you? She didn't answer. Because the truth was, she didn't know. 3 more months of pretending that was slowly becoming real. Or 3 more months of falling for someone who might walk away when the cameras stopped. We should get back to the hotel, he said. They left the party. In the taxi, they sat on opposite sides. The space between them had returned, and this time, neither tried to close it. That night, Lila couldn't sleep. Connor was on his side of the bed, breathing steady but not asleep. You awake? She whispered. Yeah, I can't do 3 more months. Silence. Not like this, she continued, not pretending. Then what do you want? I want this to be real, or I want it to end. He rolled over. They were face to face in the dark. If we make it real and it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, but at least we tried. And if it does work, then we figure it out, together. His hand found hers under the covers. I'm terrified, he admitted. Me too. They lay there, hands linked, both afraid. Outside, Bali was quiet. Inside, something had shifted. Tomorrow, he said, we tell Travel Lux we're doing it our way. Real, unscripted, no more performance. They'll hate that. Probably. We might lose the contract. We might. Worth it? His thumb traced circles on her palm. Yeah. She moved closer. Her head found his shoulder. For the first time in weeks, they slept without the canyon between them. Morning would bring consequences, but tonight they had this. Real, unscripted, and finally honest. Iceland was cold in ways Santorini and Bali hadn't prepared them for. They landed in Reykjavik under gray skies. The wind cut through jackets. Everything felt sharper here, more real. Their hotel was minimalist. Black lava rock and floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at nothing but landscape. Connor set up his equipment while Lila checked messages. Travel Lux had sent contracts for the extension. 3 more months, specific deliverables, performance benchmarks. She hadn't signed yet, neither had Connor. They'd agreed to finish the original 6 weeks first, then decide. But Iceland felt different, like an ending instead of a continuation. Content plan for today? Connor asked. Let's just explore, see what we find. No shot list? No shot list. He looked surprised, but nodded. They drove into the countryside, past waterfalls and volcanic fields. The landscape was beautiful in a harsh way, unforgiving. Connor pulled over at a black sand beach. They walked without cameras, hands in pockets. The wind made conversation difficult. At the water's edge, Lila stopped. It feels different here. What does? Us. Like we're further apart than we were in Bali. Connor kicked at the sand. Maybe because it's cold, harder to justify standing close. Is that it? I don't know what it is. They stood side by side, not touching. A wave crashed. The sound echoed. We should get some shots, he said finally. They went back to the car for equipment. The rest of the day was professional, efficient. They got the content they needed, but the warmth from Bali had faded. 3 days into Iceland, Lila found Connor's notebook. It was sitting on the desk in their hotel room, open to a page filled with notes. She didn't mean to read it, but her name caught her eye. Lila, morning light preferences, golden hour, slight overexposure, always from above eye level. Avoids straight-on flash. Likes shadows soft, not harsh. Below that, Lila, uncomfortable with compliments about appearance. Redirect to work, technique, composition instead. Below that, Lila, laughs when nervous. Real laugh is quieter, sounds like relief. There were pages of observations, details he'd cataloged, ways she moved, things she never said out loud but he'd noticed anyway. The door opened. Connor stopped, saw what she was holding. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. How long have you been keeping this? Since we started. Why? He set his bag down. Because you kept saying you wanted authentic content. And authentic means paying attention, really seeing someone. This is more than attention. I know. She turned the page, found sketches, her profile, her hands, the way she stood at overlooks. You still draw. Only you. The words hung between them. She closed the notebook, set it down carefully. Connor, why are we doing this? The contract. Not the contract. This. Us. Why are we pretending we can go back to being strangers when this is over? Because that's what we agreed to. Agreements can be broken. He ran a hand through his hair. I watched my parents perform love for 10 years, smiling for photos, holding hands in public. Then behind closed doors, nothing. Just two people living separate lives in the same house. We're not your parents. How do I know? How do I know this isn't just us being good at performing? Because you wrote that, she pointed at the notebook. Because you notice when I'm nervous versus when I'm actually happy. Because you remember how I take my coffee and what I'm afraid of and the way I used to look at you before everything got complicated. And what if it gets complicated again? Then we work through it instead of running. He looked away, out the window at the gray landscape. I'm scared, he admitted. Of what? That I want this more than you do. That in 3 months or 6 months or a year, you'll realize I'm not enough. That the work is more important. That the metrics matter more than I do. She crossed the room, stood in front of him. I can't promise I won't mess up. I probably will. I'm still figuring out how to balance everything. But I can promise I won't choose my feet over you. Not again. How can you be sure? Because I've spent 3 years regretting that I did it the first time. His eyes met hers. I deleted half my contacts, she continued, the ones who only cared about collabs and numbers. I turned down 3 campaigns last month because they felt wrong. I'm trying to build something real, not just something that looks good online. Why didn't you tell me? Because I thought we were just doing a job, playing a part. And now? Now I want to stop playing. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he picked up the notebook, flipped to a blank page, wrote something, handed it to her. New contract, just between us. Real feelings, real work. Real consequences if we screw it up. No exit clause. We stay and figure it out. She read it twice. Then she took the pen and signed her name. He signed below hers. Outside, the sky was still gray. But inside, something had clarified. That evening, they drove north for the northern lights. The forecast showed strong activity. They parked at a designated viewing area, set up cameras and waited. Other tourists arrived, couples and families. Everyone looking up. Connor stood beside her. Their shoulders touched. "Cold?" he asked. "A little." He unzipped his jacket, pulled her into it. She pressed against his chest. "Warmer?" "Much." They stood like that, waiting for lights that might not come. "Connor?" "Yeah." "If we're doing this for real, us, I mean, we should tell Travelux. That we're not faking anymore? That we never really were." He was quiet. Then, "They might pull the contract." "I know." "The extension offer might disappear." "I know." "And you're okay with that?" She looked up at him. "I'd rather have something real with no guarantee than fake something perfect for content." He smiled. The real kind. The one she'd missed. "Me too." Above them, the first shimmer of green appeared. Then more. Waves of light dancing across the sky. Everyone around them gasped. Cameras clicked. Connor didn't reach for his camera. He just held her. "We should get this," Lila whispered. "We are getting it. No camera?" Some moments aren't for sharing. They watched in silence. The lights moved like water, green and purple and white. When it ended, they drove back to the hotel. That night, they didn't stay on separate sides of the bed, and in the morning, Connor sent an email to Travelux. "We need to talk about the nature of the content moving forward." The call with Travelux happened 2 days later. Marcus, the brand manager, appeared on screen with his assistant. "Connor, Lila, we've been thrilled with the engagement numbers. Truly exceptional work." "Thank you," Lila said. "We'd like to finalize the extension. 3 months, starting immediately after Iceland." Connor and Lila exchanged a glance. "Actually," Connor said, "we need to make something clear." Marcus leaned forward. "I'm listening." "The relationship. It's not fake anymore." Silence on the call. Marcus's assistant looked confused. Marcus looked calculating. "I see. And you're telling us this because—" "Because it changes the content," Lila said. "We're not performing anymore. What you're getting is real, which means messier, less controlled, but more authentic." "More authentic is good, but we have benchmarks, deliverables. We'll hit them, but on our terms. No staged moments, no scripted interactions, just us, being us." Marcus sat back. "Let me be frank. We hired you because you could deliver a specific product. If that product changes, it gets better," Connor interrupted. "Because people can tell when something's real. The comments are already saying we seem different, more connected. That's because we are." "Or," Marcus said carefully, "they're saying you seem distant, which we've also noticed." Lila's stomach dropped. "That was us trying to maintain professional boundaries," she said. "We're done with that. You want couple content? We'll give you actual couple content, not manufactured, not filtered, real." Marcus exchanged a look with his assistant. "I'll need to discuss with the team. Can you give us 24 hours? "Of course." The call ended. Connor closed the laptop. "Well, that happened. Do you think they'll pull the contract?" "Maybe. And if they do?" He reached across the table, took her hand. "Then we figure it out. Together." She squeezed his fingers. Outside, Iceland was dark and cold. Inside, they had each other. For the first time, that felt like enough. Travelux's response came the next morning. An email, brief and professional. "Thank you for your transparency. After discussion with our team, we've decided to move forward with a different creator partnership that better aligns with our original vision. We'll honor the remainder of your current contract through Iceland. Best wishes for your future." Lila read it 3 times. "They dropped us." Connor read over her shoulder. "Yeah, I'm sorry." "For what?" "For pushing to tell them. For ruining the extension. For—" Lila, stop. He turned her chair to face him. This is the best thing that could have happened. We just lost $150,000. We gained something more important. What? Freedom. To do this our way. To build something that isn't dependent on brand deals and performance metrics. But the money, we'll figure it out. We both have our platforms, our audiences. We can create content that's actually ours. She wanted to believe him. But years of chasing validation through contracts and campaigns had taught her that security came from external approval. Connor seemed to read her mind. Hey, look at me. She met his eyes. We're good at this. At creating. At storytelling. We don't need Travelux to validate that. We never did. You sound very sure. I am sure, because I've watched you build something from nothing. I've seen you turn simple moments into art. That doesn't go away just because a brand says no. She felt something loosen in her chest. When did you get so wise? I've been reading your old blog posts from before you got big, before the sponsors. You used to write about why you love travel, not where you went or what you ate, but why it mattered, the feeling of it. I forgot about those posts. Maybe it's time to remember. She leaned into him. His arms came around her. What do we do now? We finish Iceland. We post what we want, and then we go home and figure out what comes next. Together? Together. Outside, snow started to fall. They spent their last week in Iceland creating content that would never make sense for a brand campaign. Videos of them failing to pronounce Icelandic words. Photos of Connor with terrible hat hair from the wind. A series of clips where Lila tried and failed to skip rocks on a frozen lake. Content that was messy and real, and nothing like the polished feed she'd built her career on. The engagement wasn't as high, but the comments were different. This feels more like you. Finally, something authentic. I like this version better. Sophie called to check in. So, you told a major brand to shove their contract. More or less. And you're okay with that? Lila looked across the hotel room to where Connor was editing footage, humming slightly off key. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Good, because I just got an email from a smaller travel company. They saw your Iceland content. Want to talk about a partnership that's authentic focused? No scripts, no performance metrics. Really? Really. It's not Travelux money, but it's something. And Lee, they specifically said they want whatever you two are doing now, not what you were doing before. After the call, Lila told Connor. He smiled. See? Told you we'd figure it out. One offer isn't a career. It's a start. She couldn't argue with that. That night, they posted a joint statement. We started this journey as a collaboration. It became something real. We're grateful for everyone who's followed along. What comes next will be unfiltered, imperfect, honest. Thanks for being here. The response was immediate, overwhelmingly positive. Turns out people like messy and real more than perfect and fake. Who knew? Their last morning in Iceland, they woke early. No alarm, just natural rhythm. Connor was already awake when she opened her eyes. Morning, he said. Morning. They lay there. No rush, nowhere to be. I've been thinking, he said. Dangerous. He smiled. About us. After this. What about us? I don't want to go back to separate cities, separate lives. Her heart stuttered. What do you want? I want to try, actually try, move to the same city, work together sometimes, work apart sometimes, but come home to the same place. That's a big step. I know. What if it doesn't work? What if it does? She rolled onto her side to face him. Where would we live? Wherever you want, I'm flexible. That's not fair, you should have a say. Okay, somewhere with good light, good coffee, and a space where we can both work without killing each other. She laughed. That's a short list, but achievable. She thought about it. Going home to the same apartment. Waking up together. building something that lasted longer than a campaign. It was terrifying. It was everything she wanted. Okay, okay, let's do it. Find a place. Try the real thing. He kissed her, slow and certain. Outside, the sun was rising over Iceland, their last sunrise here, the first of many together somewhere else. 6 months later, they found an apartment in Seattle. Good light, amazing coffee, space for 2 desks and occasional arguments about whose turn it was to do dishes. Their content had shifted. Individual projects, some collaborations, nothing performative. The numbers weren't as high as the Travelux days, but the work felt honest. Lila's family had been skeptical at first. Another career gamble. Another relationship that might not last. But when they visited, her mother pulled her aside. "You seem settled." "I am. Not in a bad way, in a found what you were looking for way." Lila glanced at Connor, who was showing her father his latest project on the laptop. "Yeah, I think I did." The smaller travel company had turned into a year-long partnership. Authentic content, real stories, no pressure to perform. Connor had started teaching online photography courses. Turned out he was good at helping people see differently. They still traveled sometimes, posted sometimes, but it wasn't the center anymore. One evening, Lila found Connor on the balcony. "What are you working on?" "Something for you." He handed her his laptop. On the screen, a photo series, titled Between the Frames. Every shot was of her, but not the curated, perfect angle versions she used to demand. These were the in-between moments. Looking away from camera, laughing at something off screen, lost in thought. Real, unfiltered, beautiful in ways that had nothing to do with composition. "Connor, these are you. Actually you. Not the performance version, the person I see." She couldn't speak. He zoomed in on one photo, her on a rooftop in Iceland, wind in her hair, looking at something beyond the frame, content and present and utterly herself. "This is my favorite," he said quietly, "because this is the moment I knew." "Knew what?" "That I wanted every moment after, not just the beautiful ones, not just the easy ones, all of them." She set the laptop down, turned to face him. "Even when I'm difficult? Especially then. Even when I prioritize work too much? Even then, as long as you come back." "I always come back now." "I know." They stood on the balcony. The Seattle skyline stretched out before them, lights coming on as evening fell. No cameras, no performance. Just 2 people who'd spent so long pretending that they'd almost missed the real thing. Almost, but not quite. Lila leaned into him. His arms came around her. "Think we would have found this without the fake dating?" "Eventually, but maybe not as soon." "So you're saying brand deals are good for relationships?" He laughed. "I'm saying sometimes you have to pretend to find out what's real." She looked up at him. "And what's real?" "This. Us. Right now. No filters, no edits. Just as we are." She kissed him. The city lights blurred. Somewhere in their apartment, a notification chimed. Someone commenting on a post, asking when the next video would drop. They ignored it. Because some moments weren't for sharing. Some moments were just for living. And this one, this ordinary, perfect, unscripted moment, was theirs alone. Outside, the sky darkened from blue to purple to black. Inside, they stayed on the balcony until the cold drove them in. But even then, they didn't let go. The cameras had stopped rolling months ago, but the story continued, real, unfiltered, and finally theirs.